Well, I imagine most of us are aware of all the recent delays coming from Marvel, delays upon delays, and there's one movie in particular that I think most of us are very excited for. Maybe not for the reason that Marvel would want you to be excited for one of their films, but that is, of course, The Marvels, that has now been pushed back to November 10th. And this isn't the first time it's been pushed back. This is now the fourth time. As originally, this was supposed to come out last year, July 8th. Then it got moved to November. Then it got moved to February this year. And then it got moved to July. And now it's November 10th. Mainly, I think the reason for this is because it's going to be a very embarrassing film. It's not going to bring in the money. I think we all know that. The only reason the first one done as well as it did was because it was sandwiched between two of the biggest movies that they were putting out. That's the only reason. Marvel are aware of that. And of course, already you have The Wrap coming out, trying to say, oh, this is actually a really good idea because they've got some other animated film, The Wish, coming out at the same time, that this will, in fact, bolster Disney's box office returns. I think you're shit out of luck when it comes to the Marvels. But they say the entertainment giant turned two November releases in the same year into hits before the pandemic. Can they do it again? What with the Marvels? I don't see that happening. By moving Marvel Studios' The Marvels from July to November, the same month as its animated musical Wish, Disney is placing a big bet on its cinematic heroines during the Thanksgiving season and hoping they won't cannibalize each other's audience. It's a move that could bolster two valuable franchises. What is Wish? Don't know, never heard of it. With theatrical buzz or backfire at a time when Disney can't afford a lot of missteps. That we're going to see quite a lot for the next few years. If it changes at all, which I don't think it will. The Marvels, a sequel to the 2019 film Captain Marvel, sees intergalactic Carol Danvers team up with WandaVision breakout star Monica Rambeau, who made her entrance into the MCU by saying to a Wanda that recently enslaved an entire town that they never know what you sacrifice for them. So she didn't get off to the right start. I don't think people give a shit about her. So that's not going to bring nothing to the table. You also have Ms. Marvel's protagonist, Kamala Khan, which nobody cares about. Its show on Disney Plus was the lowest watched MCU show. So people don't give a shit if Kamala Khan is there, other than for roasting. That's about it. Originally set for release at the end of July, Disney has instead given that late summer release slot to Justin Simeon's Haunted Mansion, moving the Marvels to November 10th. Just release it, you cowards. We know that's what it comes down to give more time for post-production. Do we think, given this film more time for what we've heard about is reshoots, post-production to complete, do we think that's going to improve the movie? Probably not. But they say, so the reason why I find this quite interesting is because when they're now putting it out in November 10th, and it seems to me like they're trying to bury it. I've seen other people point this out. It kind of makes sense to me that that's maybe what they're going for. Before either of these films come out, Warner Brothers will release its own blockbuster with Legendary's Dune Part 2, a real movie. So that's why it comes across like, oh, you're trying to bury this film. It's a very similar thing they did with the Ms. Marvel series, is they put it up against Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's like, it's very obvious. Most people are going to flock to Obi-Wan Kenobi. So I think we're looking at the same situation here, because I believe they're putting it not only in between Dune Part 2, but also the Mockingjay whatever film. So they're putting it. Why would you put it there? Why would you try and put it up against Dune Part 2? It's very obvious that Dune Part 2 is going to do a lot better than the Marvels. So I wonder if it is, we're just trying to bury it so then we can claim, oh, well, it came out at the same time as Dune Part 2. That's why it didn't make any money. It's not down to people weren't interested and didn't give a shit about Captain Marvel. It's just, oh, Dune Part 2 was out. It's like, yeah, but you knew it was out. The follow-up to Denis Villeneuve's 2021 Oscar-winning sci-fi epic. While that film might move its release date in response to the Marvel shift, I don't see that happening. I don't think Dune Part 2 has got anything to worry about. The Marvels is not a competition for Dune Part 2. It will be another competitor Marvel and Disney must face for general audience attention in what has suddenly become a crowded month for movie theaters. Last November, Disney tried to release a superhero and an animated film within 2 weeks of each other. The Black Panther Wakanda Forever, terrible movie. Disney's Strange World, which that completely fell apart, didn't it? Mainly because all the shit they had to pump into it. But unlike pre-COVID times, the box office results that came out of it were decidedly in favour of one film at the cost of the other. Of course, The Marvels and Wish are very different films from Wakanda Forever and Strange World, and it's possible that the two films could combine for a better box office result. So, essentially, all you're saying is, The Marvels can't do well on its own. It needs an animated show to prop it up. It needs an animated show to somehow make it seem like Disney have made a big profit. That's essentially what you're telling me. That doesn't sound too good, does it? But there will be challenges that each title will have to overcome. The Marvels, for example, features a trio of heroines that aren't as proven draws as, say, the Guardians of the Galaxy, who will get a new movie in theaters this May. If it's good, it'll be the last good Marvel movie. Well, Captain Marvel opened to, we know it made $1 billion. They point out here the reason for that. The Marvels, meanwhile, will be banking its box office potential on how much audiences are invested in Captain Marvel. Haven't heard anyone talk about it in a positive light. I haven't seen anyone talk about it recently. There's no fan base for Captain Marvel, really. Maybe a few. There may be a few, but not many. Along with whether WandaVision and Ms. Marvel built large enough fan bases, but again, just because Rambo showed up in WandaVision, it's not really got anything to do with, a fan base. Rambo was a side character. And we've went over, she wasn't off to a good start. You also have Kamala Khan, again, her show did not do very well. Did very poorly. So that's not going to drive anyone towards it. While WandaVision became a cultural phenomenon in 2021 as Marvel's first Disney Plus series, Nielsen ratings for the premiere week of Ms. Marvel on the streaming platform clocked in at 4.2 million households last summer, below the 7 million for the premiere of Moon Knight, and roughly a third of the 12.2 million households that saw the first episode of Loki in summer 2021. Despite this, BoxOffice.com editor Daniel Laurier is optimistic that the Marvels can turn a solid blockbuster profit. I mean, if this person really believes that, I don't know why you're an editor for BoxOffice.com. From its new mid-November slot, again, it's coming up against Dune Part 2. I do not think the Marvels is going to embarrass Dune Part 2. It's just not happening. Again, I think the main reason is we need to bury this film and, not embarrass ourselves because if we put it out on its own, it would make it look a lot more embarrassing. Whereas if you have other box office movies around it, it makes that look a lot less embarrassing. That's really what I think it is. Even if it has to rely more on hardcore Marvel fans than casual audience to do so, those hardcore Marvel fans dwindling as well. Everybody is, whether it's hardcore Marvel fans or casual audiences, it's all dwindling. We're seeing that. We've went over that. We've seen how Ant-Man and the Wasp is doing at the moment. Not very well. It's almost like Marvel have continued to put out trash, so people are just expecting that now. What he's more unsure about is Wish. Given Disney's struggles with animated theatrical releases last year and its focus on streaming for many animated titles under former CEO Bob Chapek, The last time Disney released an original animated musical in this Thanksgiving corridor was Mona. So they just go on and on a bit about this film that I've never heard of. And, you know, putting it out the same time as that, what's that going to achieve? I mean, Wish, I don't know nothing about it. It's not something I would go and see. But I don't think that's going to bolster anything. It's not going to matter. The Marvels is still going to be a flop. It's still going to be a flop. I mean, if you even look at the recent poster they put out, does this get you right up for the Marvels? Higher, further, faster together. And they went with putting this out. Just from looking from that poster, I'm like, this is going to be such a bad film. No. It's a film I'm very looking forward to for that reason. It's going to be a lot of fun the weeks coming up to it, and when the movie comes out, it will just be getting roasted. It's not going to do well at the box office. Doesn't matter if you put it beside an animated film, which again, that's embarrassing in itself. That your Marvel movie you can't have stand on its own 2 feet. You have to try and bolster your box office returns with an animated film. It's not good, but again, I think the main reason is they're just trying to bury it. They're trying to bury it under Dune Part 2, because why else would you make that decision? It's a very stupid decision to go, what we're going to do, we know our audiences are dwindling and just losing interest. So what we're going to do is we're going to put it up against Dune Part 2, where that didn't do well when the first one came out. I'm pretty sure the second one's going to do a lot better. And it's, I imagine, a movie that is going to have more interest than the Marvels. So that's really what I think the reason is. I pointed out the similar situation with Ms. Marvel, where they put it up beside Obi-Wan Kenobi, released it on the same day. Now, that was a very stupid decision. But I just think they have these shows that they know aren't going to do well, you know, or these movies they know aren't going to do well, so they just try and bury it a little to make the sort of embarrassment look a little less, shall we say. But the Marvels is delayed. Again, just release it, you utter cowards.